This is the Sasquatch I call Kabota that has been witnessed by other people in this particular area who have had significant interactions, even have been accosted by this particular Sasquatch who's...
From the bitter cold of Alaska to the deep woods of North Carolina, sightings of a mysterious creature, tall, bipedal, and seemingly intelligent, have defied explanation for decades. Known by many names, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the hairy man. This elusive figure has become more than a myth. It's a phenomenon. And while skeptics continue to dismiss the idea, a growing number of researchers, adventurers, and everyday people are gathering the evidence. In this documentary, we examine 5 of the most compelling Bigfoot investigations ever recorded. Moments where technology, instinct, and luck collided to capture something extraordinary. These are not reenactments. These are real stories. From thermal camera captures to strange sounds echoing in ice caves, each event leaves behind more questions than answers. So step into the wilderness, where the line between legend and reality begins to blur, and ask yourself, what's out there, watching us?
Hey everybody, my name is Todd Stanning. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Throwback Thursday video. I'm going to blow your mind today by showing you what very well may be the greatest full facial HD look at a Sasquatch of all time. It's my Kabota Video 8. I've seen some new...
In the ever-deepening search for evidence of Bigfoot's existence, few figures have made waves like Todd Standing. Known for his controversial but compelling footage, Todd runs the YouTube channel Discovering Bigfoot, where he shares what he claims are undeniable visual and thermal recordings of Sasquatch. His journey began with a video he calls the Kabota footage.
First thing you need to know is this thermal video that I filmed that's in my documentary was the catalyst that started this whole setup for the Kabota footage, which led to the facial.
A segment that sparked not only curiosity, but a renewed belief among many researchers that the creature may finally have been caught on camera in startling detail. In his own words, Todd describes a sequence of events that unfolded during a solo expedition. He recalls shooting multiple videos across several days in an area dense with reported sightings. One of those videos, according to Todd, was the turning point. He claims the creature wasn't just a dark silhouette disappearing into the woods. This time it was close enough to see its face.
Jake footage, again, I have more than 6 videos of Jake. Over the half a day I was moving in on him and trying to get footage of him. So my video 7 is a single shot thermal, and then video 8 Kabota, which is probably the greatest facial shot of Sasquatch of all time. We're going to go through that in detail today.
The thermal video, featured in his full documentary, shows what appears to be a large bipedal figure moving in the distance. The creature is moving with what Todd calls purposeful calm. Not startled, not charging, just walking.
So after I filmed it, as you can see here, I went moving back in towards this troop of Sasquatch, something that I'd never done before. I always leave the area quickly, but here I'm moving back towards them.
This footage, Todd explains, laid the groundwork for the more intimate encounter that followed, leading to what he describes as a moment of visual contact unlike anything he's experienced before. As his story continues, Todd shares how he was running low on battery power just as the figure emerged from behind the trees.
And to my shock and surprise, these 4 individuals that were up there really stood their ground. So here's the video 8 footage specifically. So now, problem is, I've been running around with my batteries, burning them out. I only had 6 batteries for this camera. So I'm desperately trying to get some footage.
He was certain of what he saw, but the screen went black.
Of this black figure that I can see off in the distance before my batteries die. Right now my camera is blinking, battery dead, battery dead, battery dead. So I'm doing the best I can to really focus, really get a shot of what's happened is something big.
Scrambling to change batteries, he got his camera working just in time to catch what would become the most debated frame in Sasquatch research.
Came in, I saw a shadowy figure come in and fall into that spot. So here I'm changing my batteries, switching to my absolute last battery. I'm milking these batteries for everything they're worth, trying to get any little piece of footage.
The face, zoomed in, framed by tall grass and tree limbs, The camera lens settles on a dark humanoid face. The features are hard to ignore. Deep-set eyes, thick brow, dark skin with hair running across its cheeks and jawline. Todd insists there is no trickery here. What you're seeing, he says, is the real thing.
This is the Sasquatch I call Kabota that has been witnessed by other people in this particular area who have had significant interactions, even have been accosted by this particular Sasquatch, who's kind of a stranger looking Sasquatch, but his dimensions show up properly. You can see the fast eye blink there. He is looking at me angrily. He is not a happy Sasquatch whatsoever. So again, I've been moving back. I was pushing towards him.
In a parallel thread of evidence, the story of Canadian prospector Albert Ostman often resurfaces. Back in the 1920s, Ostman claimed he was abducted by a family of Sasquatch while on a solo expedition in British Columbia. His tale remained buried for years until he revealed it in 1957. During a taped interview, Ostman described the experience in vivid detail. He said he was picked up in his sleeping bag and carried for miles, unable to escape, and eventually found himself in a remote canyon inhabited by 4 giant hairy creatures. Ostman described their behavior, their eating habits, and even how the presumed adult male would guard the entrance of the canyon. For 6 days, he observed them before finally managing to escape. He swore till his death that his story was true. I was awakened by something picking me up. I was half asleep at first, and I did not remember where I was. As I began to get my wits together, I remember I was on this prospecting trip, and in my sleeping bag. I could feel myself rise for every step. What was carrying me was breathing hard, and something gave a slight cough. Now I know this must be one of the mountain Sasquatch giants the Indian told me about. I know what I saw, and it was no bear. These creatures exist, and I spent almost a week among them. Claiming, I know what I saw, and it was no bear. Todd draws inspiration from stories like Ostman's, viewing them not as folklore, but as supporting testimony. He's made it his mission to bring scientific validation to the legend. His fieldwork includes not just videos, but footprint casts, audio recordings, and environmental samples. All of it, he says, points to one thing: Sasquatch is real.
On my expeditions. So here's another look at this Kabota footage. We're going to have a professional break it down and have a really good hard look specifically. So you can see how it's actually not focused right now. It's focused on the grass in front. I'm doing what I can to get that autofocus to focus on the actual Sasquatch himself in back behind.
Of course, not everyone agrees. Skeptics have called his footage staged or inconclusive. But for Todd, the criticism is just part of the journey. Science begins with observation, he often says, and this is what I've observed. The Kabota video remains one of the most hotly debated clips in cryptid research. Whether it shows a real creature or not, it undeniably reignites the conversation. It reminds us that in the depths of our world's last true wilderness, there may still be mysteries waiting just beyond the tree line. And Todd, standing with camera in hand, is determined to find them.
Now, something I noticed too, when I came back to the spot later, that's an enormous space. He has an enormous head. Not only are his eyes 2.5 spacings across, which is completely non-human, but his head was at least 16 inches across, where a normal human being's head, like mine specifically, is about 7 inches across. So his head's absolutely enormous. You can see scarring on his nose. He's blinking and looking at me intently because he is angry at me.
Wir sind wieder oben in Dry Fork. Wir waren vor etwa 6 Wochen hier im Gebiet von Red Cloud. Wir fanden ein paar Schlafplätze, große Zweibeinerspuren waren sichtbar. Genau dazwischen haben wir ein paar Wildkameras aufgestellt. Wir sind wieder oben und schauen uns um. Wir zelten hier oben. Ich zelte nicht immer unter den idealsten Bedingungen. Man muss bei fast allen Bedingungen nach Bigfoot Ausschau halten. Ich glaube, es war
Nebraska, Red Cloud, remote, windswept. A place of wide horizons and deeper mysteries. The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization had one goal on this expedition: find hard evidence. Something more than blurry figures or shaky footage. They were here to prove that Bigfoot wasn't just a myth whispered around campfires. It was real, and it was watching. The crew had set up camp in an area not many would choose for a casual night out. It was exposed, risky, and on a known trail for wildlife. But that was the point. If you want to find Bigfoot, you don't play it safe. You go where the stories come from. You go where it might be watching.
Hier oben liegt immer noch ziemlich viel Schnee. Hier und da ein paar Stellen. Hast du schon mal mit einem Teleskop experimentiert, Kelly, und mit deinem Handy oder deiner Kamera Fotos durch das Teleskop gemacht? Hast du gesehen, wie andere das machen? Ja, Jenny und ich haben das auf dem Monte Cristo mit Brodys Teleskop gemacht. Wir haben eine kleine, billige Taschenkamera benutzt und konnten den Mond ins Bild packen. Ich meine, das war der...
Armed with binoculars, cameras, and field notebooks, the team began their search. Early in the day, they took to scanning the surrounding mountains, especially the peaks, looking for anything out of place. One of the team members pointed to a shadow on the ridgeline. "Looks like a cave," he said. Then he paused. Just inside the shadowy mouth of the cave, what appeared to be a large, dark figure was laying still. "Could be just rock," another responded, skeptical. But the shape had that familiar outline, something not quite human. Still, without movement or closer inspection, it was impossible to say for sure. They moved on.
Ein Hirsch wäre, könnte ich ihn einfach heranzoomen. Mal sehen. Ist das der Knöchel, von dem du sprichst? So weit, wie er reicht. Nein, er reicht noch weiter. Sieh dir das an. Oh ja, das ist schön. Also, wenn hier vor dieser Höhle ein Hirsch hockt, von dem wir von hier aus nicht einmal erkennen könnten, dass es eine Höhle ist, bis wir heranzoomen. Wow, das ist schön. Das zoomt so heran. Ja, und siehst du, ich brauchte kein Handy und kein Spektiv, um das aufzunehmen. Naja, das ist immer noch nicht so weit, aber du weißt, was ich meine. Kannst du diese Höhle von hier aus mit bloßem Auge sehen? Oh, dieser kleine Rücken, siehst du, ist er direkt an der Spitze? Nein, nicht mit bloßem Auge, das könnte ich nicht erkennen.
The team's goal was simple: gather as much physical evidence as possible. That meant footprints, claw marks, scat, hair, anything that pointed to a large unknown primate moving through these woods. Then came the first real sign. A tree, rough-barked and wide, had a massive claw mark carved into it. High, too high for a bear to comfortably reach, and deeper than what might come from a raccoon or other known wildlife. The scratch stretched several feet long, tearing bark in thick lines. Whoever, or whatever, had made it was tall and strong.
Mein Großer, das ist der Hammer.
Oh, mein Gott. Er hat sich auf diesen Baum gestürzt. Wow. Wow, das ist ein großer Baum. Ein paar Spechtfedern. Das dauert echt lange. Wir haben tatsächlich einen Specht gefilmt und Fotos gemacht, der sich unter...
Excited but cautious, the team pressed forward. Snow covered parts of the trail, melting slightly under the weak sun. Then came the discovery that made everyone stop in their tracks. Literal tracks. Footprints. Not just one, but a sequence of them stretching ahead. Each print was large, bigger than any human foot. They pulled out a measuring tape, 6 feet apart, heel to heel. That would require massive strides, too large for a person walking naturally. They followed the trail. That's when they found the hair. Dark gray mixed with brown, coarse, long, and caught on a low-hanging branch. It was enough to raise eyebrows. Could this be it? DNA-worthy material?
Denk mal darüber nach, wie tief das noch ist und wie breit diese Stufe ist.
Ja, die Stufe von dort bis dort. Das ist eine 1,80 Meter lange Stufe. Ich habe tatsächlich ein Maßband. Das sieht auch nach einem zweibeinigen Schritt aus.
Hier ist noch mehr. Es ist nicht über.
Meinen, okay, das werden wir uns ansehen. Wir werden diesen Schritt messen. Wo fängt er an? Wo hört er auf?
Wo fängt er an? Wo hört er auf? Ich meine, wenn du von Mitte zu Mitte gehst, ist es von
Mitte zu Mitte fast 1,80 Meter, 69 Zoll, von
Mitte zu Mitte. Und da drüben liegt etwas. Lass uns das mal überprüfen. Ja, bis zum Knie im Wasser, Schlamm, etc. Ich bin bis zu meinem Knie da. Und es hat eine Schrittlänge von 1,80 Metern. Ja, und das sieht nach einem Zweibein.
They carefully bagged it and continued on. Just a few feet ahead, more hair. This time, even more strands were found clinging to bark and brush. Something had definitely come through here, and recently.
Schnee liegt, dann will es sich abkühlen. In den ersten beiden Märzwochen hatten sie hier Temperaturen von fast 70 Grad Celsius. Ein BHATs oder fellbekleidetes Tier, das sein Winterfell noch trägt, hat sich vielleicht in den Schnee gelegt.
As the sun dipped lower and the wind picked up, the team turned back. They had gathered samples, logged GPS coordinates, and documented everything. Once back at base camp, they reviewed their findings. Was the shape in the cave a resting Bigfoot? Were the claw marks made by something beyond known wildlife? And most importantly, could the hair samples finally provide the DNA evidence researchers have long searched for? The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch team wasn't ready to make bold claims, not yet. But they had something, real-world data, tangible traces. And in the world of Bigfoot research, that's everything. This expedition didn't just rely on stories or rumors, it followed the signs. And what they found might be the beginning of something much bigger. North Carolina, a state with dense forests, shadowed valleys, and legends that refuse to die. One such legend came to life for a man named Mike Green, a dedicated Sasquatch researcher who had spent the better part of 2 decades tracking something most of the world dismisses as fantasy. But Mike knew better. He had seen it, felt it, and one night in the wilderness, it came too close for comfort. The story caught the attention of the whose mission was to explore real-world claims and experiences surrounding Bigfoot. They traveled deep into the North Carolina woods, to the exact site of Mike's encounter. There, standing next to him, they listened closely as he recalled that chilling night. "Right here," he said, pointing to the flat patch of earth surrounded by thick trees and silence. This was the place.
So we got the footage.
Right.
I love it. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
It's definitely unique. There's nothing else out there like that. And you're saying it was right here?
Here it is. This is the spot, and that is the stump. That stump right there is where the candy bar was when he grabbed it off the thermal.
Mike described that night with haunting clarity. He was alone at a remote campground. No other campers, no other signs of human activity. Around 3 a.m., he was jolted awake by a strange noise just outside his tent. A presence, heavy, intentional. It wasn't a rustling animal or passing breeze, it was deliberate. Something hit the side of the tent, a bang, not just enough to startle, but to terrify. Then silence.
3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. Down there somewhere, I heard this plopping noise. It sounded like somebody dropping a water balloon on the floor.
Knowing the reputation of the area and not one to waste an opportunity, Mike sprang into action. He had a thermal imaging camera pre-mounted on a tripod outside. Without wasting time, he got in his vehicle and drove to the far end of the campground, thinking whatever it was might move toward the now abandoned tent. He waited. 2 hours passed, still nothing. When he returned to the camera site, he found the battery dead. It was a devastating blow. His best chance at capturing irrefutable evidence had slipped away in the dark.
And it ran off. I heard this rustling down here, and I thought, God darn it, he's down there watching. And on the spur of the moment, I had a tripod there with all my other junk. I took the tripod out, set it up right next to the back of the car, mounted the thermal on it, and I got in my car and conspicuously drove off. And I drove way to the other end of this campsite, and I just parked there and I waited for 2 hours. And then I came back. Candy bar was gone, and the battery was dead. I knew what I'd seen.
The DMAX team, led by experienced field investigators, decided to recreate the scenario in exact detail. They placed a thermal cam at the same location, mimicked Mike's movements, and camped out in the same conditions.
Unequivocally, it was a Squatch. The image does not reflect any cold spots that it would if you were wearing a fat suit or a lot of insulation. Its general shape was of a Sasquatch.
Their reconstruction showed how plausible the story was. The logistics, the timing, the isolation. Everything lined up. And more importantly, the energy of the place felt off, as if something still lingered there.
We're about to try running a reconstruction of Mike's video. We'll use Bobo, if you don't mind being the model, being the Sasquatch.
Just the model.
Okay.
I'm going to be the stand-in for the Bigfoot. We're going to position Mike's thermal exactly how it was the night he got the footage. So we're going to compare me to the size of the creature in the video, and we'll also be able to do a comparison of the heat signature between myself and the creature in the original video.
We're going to try to position Bobo.
Fueled by Mike's account, the team prepared for a full-scale night investigation. They split into 2 groups, each equipped with thermal cameras, night vision scopes, and walkie-talkies. Their goal? Sweep the surrounding area for movement. Hours passed with little more than the occasional animal scurry. But then, something shifted.
So it's exactly in some of the key points that we see in the footage. When we put these side by side, we'll be able to see like how long the thing's arm is compared to Bobo, etc. Okay, Bobo, we're going to roll this footage, and then we're going to have you in a minute kind of crawl up toward the stump. So, stand by. Okay, play the recorded in.
All right, you guys ready?
One of the teams spotted movement on a nearby hill. It was subtle at first. A shadow? A trick of the trees? But then it moved again, deliberately, upright, bipedal. The thermal imaging camera confirmed what their eyes could not. This wasn't a deer. This wasn't a bear. It was walking on 2 legs. Panic pulsed through the radio chatter. And then, without warning or coordination.
I've done 3 expeditions here. I'm pretty confident that that was a Sasquatch in the film. We're going to go look around. We've got handheld thermals. We've got night vision. We're going to go spook around and see if we can get one to follow us. So I decided to split the group into 2 teams. Cliff and I were going to stay down low with our thermal devices while Bobo and Renee started their sweep into the woods.
Matt Moneymaker, one of the lead investigators, took off. He bolted up the slope in pursuit of the figure. The rest of the team scrambled to catch up, shouting for Matt to stop, to fall back, to regroup. But the adrenaline had taken over. This was what they came for. And Matt wasn't going to let it slip away. As Matt crashed through the underbrush, cameras rolled, breathless updates poured into the radios. But the terrain was rough, visibility limited, and whatever had been there was gone.
There's something on the hill.
What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to run up that hill?
No, we're not supposed to do this.
Why is he going up there?
Whatever I saw was big. It looked all to God like it was walking on 2 legs. There might be a Sasquatch right here.
The team reassembled at base camp, shaken and frustrated. Some were upset about the lack of coordination. Others felt Matt had done the right thing. What if that was their only chance? What if the figure never showed up again? Mike Green watched quietly as the discussion unfolded. He'd been there before. He knew the feeling, the burning urge to chase what others deny exists. And he knew, perhaps better than anyone, how easily a moment like that can vanish before your eyes.
I don't see him. Bobo, you copy?
I'll read you, Matt. Come back.
All right, this is what I saw. There was a bipedal figure. He was planking across the hill. If it's a Squatch, then we've got some thermal footage of it. But I want to come back and we'll look at the tape over there, and we'll see what we can figure from that.
The footage from the night showed little beyond the thermal outline. A heat signature that resembled a human form but was clearly not behaving like one. The path it took was steep and rugged, far too treacherous for a casual hiker, especially in pitch darkness. And there were no footprints, no sounds of retreat. Just one more mystery added to the growing pile of Bigfoot encounters across the country. But in that remote stretch of North Carolina forest, something stirred, something real, and it moved on two legs.
This is not how you collect evidence of any animal. Where's the plan? Where's the communication? We don't just run off rogue into the woods haphazardly.
Gotta be hiding.
The team left the site with more questions than answers, but one thing was certain: this wasn't just another story. This was an event, witnessed, pursued, and partially captured. And the presence that haunted Mike Green's campground 2 decades ago? It may have returned.
Okay, well, this is my footage. This is what I saw through the thermal imager. I saw a profile view of it. It had arms. It was moving along. I could see the leg lifts. It was definitely a bipedal figure.
Right in the middle of this viewer is this hot image of somebody, solid hot.
Because in the world of Bigfoot research, every confirmed encounter, every shadow caught on camera, every panicked radio call adds one more piece to the puzzle. And as that puzzle grows, the question becomes harder to ignore.
And I've heard it now.
What are you, the fawn? Can't admit you're wrong? I mean, dude.
I was absolutely right. I'm not going to wait, and I'm certainly not going to ask their permission. I'm the leader there, and I'm going to make decisions about what I need to do in those spur-of-the-moment situations where there's not a second to lose, and they just have to live with that.
The next clip comes from the YouTube channel Master Hughes, a man known for exploring the wilderness and sharing his findings with a loyal following. But this time, what he captured is something different, something that sent chills down his spine. It was dawn. Fog blanketed the entire mountaintop in Oklahoma, where he had been camping for several nights. For the first few days, things were normal, rustling in the trees, distant animal calls. But Master Hughes claims that the last 2 nights were dead silent. And then came the howl. He pulls out his camera, clearly shaken, and begins recording what he's hearing. The howling echoes through the dense fog, long, drawn out, and not quite animal, and definitely not human. There's something off about the pitch, the tone, even the rhythm. His heart is racing, and there is discomfort in breathing. Still, the howl rings out again, this time louder, clearer, and bone-chilling. The camera pans slowly as Hughes shows around, trying to show his audience that the footage is real and authentic. The fog is too thick. We can't see beyond a few feet. He's been in the wild for 6 nights. He knows the forest's usual sounds.
Now, I think this is my 6th night out, and for the first couple of nights there was a lot of noises at night, obviously animal noises. The last 2 nights it's been extremely quiet.
But this one has him terrified. Could it be a predator announcing its presence? A creature celebrating a kill? Or was this howl a warning, letting others know the hunt is over? Later in the video, he sits down to talk about what he experienced. And you can see it. He's rattled. His voice is uneven, and his eyes scan the tree line constantly. "I've been keeping a low profile," he says. Could it have been Bigfoot? A skinwalker? Something else entirely? Or was it a creature we haven't identified yet? One that doesn't like being seen? We'll leave that for you to decide. Watch the clip, listen closely to the howls, and let us know what you think in the comments. This next clip comes from the YouTube channel Ohio Paranormal Investigations, a platform dedicated to uncovering and sharing eerie and unexplained sightings from across Ohio. But what you're about to see might just be one of the most unsettling pieces of footage they've ever received. It's a quiet day at Salt Fork State Park, one of Ohio's most well-known hotspots for strange activity. The forest is dense, the air damp, and a light fog hugs the tree line. Dried leaves crunch underfoot, and tall trees loom overhead. The video begins with a wide shot, and then movement. Something large, something not quite human. Partially obscured by the trees, a tall, dark figure shifts in the distance. You can hear the man filming, a fisherman, not a hunter, breathing heavily. There's fear in his voice, unease, maybe even sorrow. He wasn't looking for trouble. He came to fish, not chase monsters. His hands shake as he tries to hold the camera steady. He zooms in as trying desperately to lock on to the figure. But in the thick of the trees and fog, it's hard to make out. 1 second it's there, the next, it's gone. The man whispers something under his breath. He's rattled. And who wouldn't be? This isn't a man looking for fame. He isn't tracking creatures or telling stories. He simply stumbled upon something bizarre, something big, something that moved like it didn't belong among us. Was it Bigfoot? Was it something else entirely? Or was this just another trick of the forest? An illusion cast by the fog and fear. But the question that lingers isn't just about what he saw. It's about why these things keep happening in this forest. Are our parks and trails home to something ancient, something hidden? Watch the clip again, listen to the sounds, feel the tension, and ask yourself, did this fisherman really capture a Bigfoot on camera? Or did something want him to see it? Let us know your thoughts. This next piece of footage is being hailed by many as the best Bigfoot sighting since the legendary 1967 Patterson-Gimlin footage. And honestly, once you watch it, you might just agree. We're deep in the woods. Snow coats the forest floor. Tall, dry trees stretch into a pale sky. Everything was quiet until the camera started rolling. The footage begins with heavy breathing and a shaky lens. Not your average nature hike. The man behind the camera is clearly in shock. Something rattled him to the core. And it wasn't just a fleeting shadow or rustling leaves. No. He saw something, 2 figures walking upright in the snow. He fumbles with his phone, quickly pulling up the camera. He knows he saw them, and now he wants to prove it.
I got my head up, I see her. I just saw 2 figures walking.
The camera pans slowly, struggling to focus. You can tell he's scared. His breathing, the tremble in his voice, the slight panic in how he zooms in too fast. But then, just as he adjusts, he catches movement. He pans slightly to the left. And there it is.
Wait for a second.
A tall, bipedal figure, black against the white snow, moving slowly but confidently among the trees. And it's big, not just in height, but in sheer mass. This creature isn't hiding. It's moving freely like it owns the woods. Suddenly, it stops. It turns toward a tree, grabs it, and starts swinging it like it's nothing more than a toy. You can hear the panic rising in the man's voice. He whispers, "We gotta get out of here. We're too close." And honestly, who could blame him? That wasn't just a random action. That was strength, raw and unsettling. Whether it was a warning, a show of dominance, or simply play, we don't know. But whatever that creature is, it's not just wandering, it's aware. The video cuts, but 30 minutes later, the man returns. Against better judgment, he heads back to the exact spot of the sighting, camera still rolling. He points toward a tree. It snapped, resting on the ground just as the creature left it. The snow beneath it is marked with massive footprints, long strides, deep impressions, not the kind you'd expect from a human. This thing wasn't wearing boots. It wasn't barefoot either. The print is wide, unlike anything you'd see in your average wildlife tracking guide. You can hear the conflict in his voice. Curiosity is still battling fear. What did he really see? What was that towering figure that moved through the trees like a ghost, then demonstrated power that no man could match? Was it angry? Territorial? Or was that entire scene, the tree swinging, the slow approach, just a warning, something to say? I see you. Now leave.
The video. Okay. Right here's that tree. Like a creature broke in for whatever reason.
And that brings us to the bigger question. Was this a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, or something entirely unknown? We're left with broken branches, giant footprints, and a few minutes of raw, trembling footage that raises more questions than answers. But one thing is for sure. Whatever that was, it wasn't human. The forest has secrets, and sometimes if you're in the right place at the wrong time, you catch a glimpse of something that was never meant to be seen. Watch the footage again, frame by frame. See the movement. Listen to the fear. And ask yourself, what really lives in our forests? The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch operations, known for their boots-on-the-ground Bigfoot investigations, received a chilling submission that overlaps with one of the most well-known survival stories in the American wilderness. This is the story of Rita Chrétien, a Canadian woman who survived 47 days stranded in the remote Nevada wild. But this footage may suggest she wasn't alone out there. Rita and her husband had taken a wrong turn in March of that year. Unfamiliar with the terrain and unaware of seasonal closures, they ended up deep in the brutal backcountry south of Roland, a ghost town surrounded by dirt tracks that turn into an impassable maze during winter. Many of these roads don't open until late June. The environment? Hostile, isolated, and rarely traveled. In those conditions, survival alone is a feat. But what was caught on camera near that region adds a whole new layer of mystery.
She was located south of a ghost town called Roland, on a spur road of a maze of dirt roads in the rugged Jarbidge country. It is not just rugged terrain, it is brutal there in the winter.
In the video submission, a couple can be heard gasping softly as they zoom in on something unexpected. The shot is shaky at first, but then stabilizes slightly. There, tucked into what appears to be a natural rock formation.
Does it look like anything to you, or is it just my eyes?
Looks like something to me. I think we should leave the camera on it for a little while and see what it does.
Okay.
A cave-like spot partially obscured by broken branches and brush sits a dark figure. It's large, still, almost as if it's watching. They both are wondering, what is that thing? As they struggle to adjust the zoom. At roughly a mile away, the image is grainy but clearly bipedal. The figure isn't standing. It's sitting, shoulders hunched forward, arms resting on its knees like it's resting. You can feel their confusion, fear, curiosity.
Does it look like anything to you, or is it just my eyes?
Looks like something to me. I think we should leave the camera on it for a little while and see what it does.
Okay.
The woman zooms out briefly to try and describe the location for later reference. There are light green trees in the foreground, likely younger pines, and a row of tall, dark evergreens in the back. It's between those trees that the creature sits, unmoving, partially shaded by the canopy.
Right up there, that's where he's sitting. Or the rock is sitting, or stone. Huh?
Up by like the triangular trees?
Yep. See how they kind of come down and then there's some...
Was it coincidence that this sighting occurred in the same region Rita Chrétien was stranded for weeks? Or was something watching? That part of the Jarbidge wilderness remains largely untraveled.
That big rock that's square, right below the very bottom tree. It's just up and to the right of it a little bit, like 5 feet.
But as this clip shows, sometimes the most remote corners of the wild hold more than just stories of survival. They may hide something, watching, waiting, and very, very real. This next clip comes from a YouTube channel called Broadcast Downloads, who received a startling piece of footage from a group of contractors working deep in the forests of Alberta, Canada. It was supposed to be a routine trip. The workers were headed to a remote construction site, the kind surrounded by dense woods, far from the nearest town. As they made their way toward the clearing, the fog rolled in, visibility dropped, and that's when something caught their eye. At first it was just a silhouette, a mysterious dark figure standing motionless near the tree line. One of the men quickly pulled out his phone and began recording. The others stood still, confused, questioning. The shape barely moved, but its size was clear, massive, and completely still, as if watching them. And then, suddenly, movement.
Oh yeah, okay, now I see something, yeah, he's kind of coming over the...
Without warning, the figure hurls a large tree branch, not just tossing it, but launching it across the clearing. It crashes to the ground dangerously. The men are not standing very far. You can hear them gasp. One of them yells. Panic sets in. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't someone in a suit. This was real, and it was far too close.
It's kind of spooky to begin with because it's this kind of shadowy, murky figure, just sort of peeking, just barely visible at the tree line.
Just through the tree.
The team later sent the footage in for analysis. Former NYPD image analyst Connor McCord runs the video through his enhancement software. The enhancement of the colors clearly reveals the figure in the woods and its incredible strength. What you're seeing now is no illusion. Something was out there, hiding in the mist, and it made its presence known in the most chilling way possible. Was it Bigfoot or something else entirely? We'll let you decide.
There's a mist and there's shadows from the forest. This all causes the image to be blurry. What I'm going to do here is do a level adjustment. It adjusts the brightness and the contrast. There we go. This is our target right here.
Our next sighting takes us to Old Forge, New York, a quiet town nestled on the western side of the Adirondack Mountains. Known for its dense wilderness and remote terrain, it has now become the backdrop for something truly unexplainable. It was a foggy afternoon when a group of friends were out exploring the area. As they moved through the woods, something caught their attention in the distance. A large, upright figure moving between the trees. At first they assumed it might be a bear, but then they looked closer. One of the men pulled out his phone and started recording. The footage shows a tall, black figure, bipedal, walking steadily and without hesitation. What's unsettling is how human-like the creature's movements are. You can clearly make out its arms swinging, the posture completely upright, and the stride smooth, confident. Whatever this was, it wasn't crawling or lumbering like a bear.
I don't see it right now.
Whoa, there it is.
It's a bear. That's not a bear. What is that?
It's a freaking bear. What?
A bear walking on legs that's brown around here?
You can hear the men in the background debating, their voices laced with nervous curiosity. "It's a bear," one says. Another disagrees. "That's not a bear, man." The creature walks as if it has nothing to fear, not hiding, not avoiding them, just calmly passing through the woods. No signs of panic, no sounds of aggression, just that eerie, unbothered movement through the mist. Was it Bigfoot? A Sasquatch? Or some unknown being that calls these mountains home? We'll let you decide. Take a closer look at the clip and let us know what you think in the comments below. You ever get that feeling like you're being watched? Not in the city, not in a crowd, but somewhere quiet, isolated, where every sound echoes and the silence feels thick. That's what one man felt deep in the forests of North America. He wasn't out there for anything special, no research, no hunting, just a breath of fresh air, far away from the static of city life. The trees were tall, the forest floor soft with moss. Birds chirped, sunlight filtered gently through the pine branches. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. The man had stopped for a sip of water when something shifted at the edge of his vision. He turned slowly, and that's when he saw it. A figure, large, dark, upright.
It's crazy.
It moved between the trees like it belonged there, not crawling, not hunched, but walking, with long, heavy steps. Its shoulders were massive, arms dangling unnaturally low, swaying slightly as it moved. It was tall, thick, covered head to toe in coarse black hair. But what struck him most wasn't the size, it was the way it moved. There was no panic, no fear. It walked calmly, confidently, like it knew this place, like it owned it, and maybe like it knew it was being watched. The hiker barely breathed. He raised his phone, hit record. You can see it in the clip. The creature doesn't turn, doesn't speed up. It just keeps walking, straight through dense underbrush, like none of it matters. Almost as if it's leading him or warning him. The man whispered to himself, "This isn't right. I'm not supposed to see this." And maybe he wasn't. For years, legends have whispered about creatures in these woods. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, forest giants. But they always vanish before we get proof. Every photo is blurry. Every video is shaky. Every witness is left with more questions than answers. But what if it's not just one? What if they're out there, many of them, watching us from the shadows, walking the same trails, hearing every twig we step on, smelling us long before we know they're there? Every year, hikers disappear. Campers vanish. Some are found. Most aren't. And the forest never says a word. So next time you're alone in the woods and the wind dies, the birds go quiet, and your gut tells you to turn back. Maybe listen, because whatever's watching you might not be human. It was a quiet ride through the deep woods of Massachusetts. The kind of solo escape most mountain bikers dream about. No crowds, no traffic, just the sound of tires crunching over dirt and the wind moving through trees older than any town nearby. It was 2015, and this rider, armed with a GoPro, was ready to capture his day in the wild. The forest was thick, branches hung low. Sunlight barely pierced through the dense green above. It was peaceful, untouched, the kind of place that hides more than it reveals. Then, it happened. The rider slowed down. He'd seen something. just off the trail, between the trees. Movement. Small. Quick. But not in a way he could explain. It wasn't a deer. It wasn't a rabbit. It wasn't anything he'd seen on these trails before. It moved differently. He pulled over. The GoPro picked up the tension in his breath, the way the camera began to shake slightly in his hands. His voice dropped to a whisper. And then, a flash. A figure darted between the trunks, covered in hair, low to the ground, upright. It didn't crawl. It didn't hop. It ran, on two legs, like a child running through the woods, but wild. He panned the camera, tried to zoom in, but the thing had already vanished into the undergrowth, moving like it knew the land, knew how to hide, how to disappear before anyone got a clear look. Some might laugh and say it was a baby bear, but when you watch the clip, when you pause it, frame by frame, you see something else. The posture, the proportion, the strange grace in its movement, something that doesn't add up. And that's what unsettled him the most, because if it was a baby, where was the mother? For a moment he just stood there. The trail he'd loved for years now felt strange, unfamiliar, like the woods weren't just trees and moss anymore, but something alive, watching, deciding. Massachusetts has always carried its share of wilderness legends, but this was real, caught on camera, brief as it was. So the next time you're alone on a forest trail, breathing in the silence, surrounded by nothing but woods, keep your eyes open. Because if that was a young Sasquatch, then something much bigger is out there too. And it's probably not far behind. British Columbia, the Tantalus Range, remote, jagged, icy. It was July 2nd, 20th, a clear summer day in the high alpine. Wildlife biologist Miles Lamont was hiking near Squamish, Canada, when he noticed something unusual.
We're on top of Tricuni Peak, and pretty sure there's just Sasquatch down there.
Oh my god.
I can't really see it very well. There's this little black dot walking in the middle of the snow, in the middle of nowhere.
High above the valley floor, near 7,000 feet elevation, a tiny black figure moved across a snowy ridge. From that distance, it looked like a speck. But it wasn't still. It was climbing. Fast, upright, deliberate. Lamont caught it on film, puzzled. "If that's a human," he said.
Why would he walk up that way? If that was a human, why would you walk up that ridge or that snow line? Why would you not just go straight down?
Why would they be walking up that ridge? No one hikes uphill into the cold unless they have a reason. And certainly not without gear. No backpacks, no snowshoes, no visible equipment. Just a lone, dark figure moving across deep snow as if the terrain didn't matter. Lamont, an experienced outdoorsman and wildlife biologist, had seen plenty of backcountry travelers.
Good thing we brought beers. We could lure him over here. Dude, that's bizarre.
This wasn't like any of them. His voice in the footage carries a strange mix of curiosity and tension. He even jokes, maybe if we had a few beers we could lure him over. But he's unsettled. This was not quite like any of those, he later said. It was a bit different. The video stirred up waves online. Debates erupted. Was it a person? Or something else?
We're in the middle of nowhere right now. I don't know how high we are, but we're probably close to 7,000 feet. 6,500 maybe.
That's when a man named Peter Tennant, or Ridgewalker Pete, stepped forward. He claimed the figure was him. A solo hiker from White Rock, BC, Pete said he had been in the area that same summer. No pack, no snowshoes, just an emergency locator. He was exploring. Simple, harmless. But then, the timeline unraveled.
But I mean, he's hiking through snow like it's his job. And where the hell is he going? I mean, there's nowhere to go that way.
Pete claimed he was on Tricuni Mountain during the last week of July. Lamont's footage, dated July 2nd, 3 weeks apart, different locations, same range, but not the same day. So if it wasn't Pete, who or what was it? A figure, alone, high in the snow, without gear, moving quickly where few dare to tread. In the deep wilderness of British Columbia, far from roads and watchers, maybe legends walk the ridgelines after all. And sometimes, we catch them on camera.
I don't...
Deep in the heart of the Pacific Northwest, where the forest canopy blocks the sun and the silence hangs heavy in the air, Paul Freeman, a seasoned tracker, stumbled upon something that still defies explanation. It was 1994, and Freeman, no stranger to the woods, had ventured out into one of the region's most untouched and remote areas. He wasn't chasing headlines, he was following signs, tracks, broken branches, that subtle, almost invisible trail only trained eyes catch. Then, he saw it. A figure, massive and dark, moving among the trees. Without hesitation, Freeman raised his camcorder, an old VHS handheld, and hit record. What he captured that day would go on to become one of the most controversial and compelling Bigfoot videos ever recorded. The footage is grainy, rough, the kind you'd expect from a tape over 2 decades old. But frame by frame, it reveals something extraordinary. The creature, tall, broad-shouldered, covered in dark hair, moves with surprising grace. It brushes past a tree, then suddenly, it bends down. What happens next has fueled debate for years. It lifts something. In its left arm, the figure appears to cradle a smaller form. Something compact, motionless. A baby? A juvenile? The way it holds it, tight against its side, secure, deliberate. It doesn't feel accidental. It feels parental. Researchers who've stabilized and enhanced the footage point to that moment. That single movement, that subtle reach, the shift in weight, the care. Skeptics say it's nothing, just the angle, a trick of the light. But for those who've studied wildlife behavior, it looks all too real. Freeman never wavered. Until his death in 2003, he stood by what he saw, what he recorded. He wasn't out to fool anyone. He was a man of the woods, and he knew what he saw wasn't human. No CGI, no digital tricks, just a shaky VHS tape, and one chilling mystery. If that was a Bigfoot, and if it was carrying its young, then the truth is even more haunting. Bigfoot isn't just real. They're raising families in the woods, and we're just now starting to notice. It was October 8th, 2020, a night painted in silence and cold. The kind of night where even the trees seem to listen. Deep in the forest, far from city lights and cell towers, a lone explorer was doing what he loved, metal detecting. He wasn't looking for danger, just relics, forgotten things buried beneath layers of moss and time. For a while, everything was peaceful. His flashlight cut through the darkness. The detector chirped softly, and soon he pulled something from the ground. A rusted piece of old metal. He held it up to the camera, smiling. A good find. A quiet night.
Well, it's getting dark on me. Down to my last target. Looks like a little wood or...
Then, the sound came. Low, long, drawn out. Not a howl, not a bird call, not human. Something else entirely. It stopped him in his tracks. He paused, listening. Tried to laugh it off, even mumbled something to the camera. But then, it came again.
What's that?
Louder this time. Closer. It didn't sound like anything he could name, and this time, it echoed. It bounced through the trees, like whatever made it wasn't far. Like it was moving, circling, watching. The man whispered to himself, "What the hell was that?" His voice was tight now. The camera shook slightly. You could hear it. The shift. The instinct. He wasn't alone. He stopped filming.
Whoa, did you guys hear that? It sounded like something howling.
The forest, once open and still, felt like it was breathing. Closing in, he started walking. Not running, but fast. Steady. Every step matched by the feeling that something else was walking too. He never saw it, but he felt it. A weight, a pressure, the kind of presence that makes your skin crawl even when there's no one in sight. Eventually, after what felt like forever, the trees broke. Highway lights appeared through the branches like salvation.
Oh, jeez.
He stepped out of the woods, safe but changed. He looked back, still nothing, but the scream, that stayed with him. And he swears, whatever made that noise wasn't from this world. Skinwalker, Wendigo, or something unnamed still waiting in the dark? All he knows is, he never went back. And maybe you shouldn't either. It started like any other hike. Clear skies, birdsong, sunlight dripping through pine needles. Deep in the Colorado backcountry, far from campsites and tourist trails, a man walked alone. But this wasn't just any hiker. This was the man behind the Colorado Bigfoot YouTube channel, a tracker known for seeking what most people refuse to believe exists. He's done this before. He's seen strange things, but this day felt off. The deeper he went, the quieter it got.
If I didn't, it sure looks like it. Remember, pareidolia is trees and leaves coming together. It's not.
Birds stopped singing. The wind died down. And then he noticed it. Tree limbs snapped in half. Not chopped, not fallen. Twisted, torn. Massive branches littered the ground, too thick for any ordinary animal to break.
No. All clean. Nothing, no living animal cleans petrified sticks and keeps them as pets.
Camera in hand, he whispered into the mic. You could hear the tension rising. He stepped carefully, brushing past low branches. And then, he stopped. Something was there, not far off, just beyond the tree line. A tall, unmoving figure stood between the trees. Dark, broad, upright. Too big to be human. Too still to be an animal.
Well, maybe it is. I don't know what you think. It's the second time something just left right there. And it was small. The vibration, it went... It did...
He zoomed in. There, he whispered. Between those two trees, it wasn't moving. It was just watching. No blinking, no twitching. Just a massive shape, barely blending in, like it knew how to hide.
Super zapped. Need your help, you guys. Patreon, PayPal, Messenger. Like sooner, this will be one of the last videos you ever see.
But not perfectly. And then, in a blink, it was gone. No sound, No crack of branches, just silence. Was it Bigfoot or a trick of the light? All we know is he saw something big, something watching. And when the wilderness goes that quiet, that's when you know you're not alone out there.
So if you watch, you can see he'll blink or close his eyes. There's also clearly one right on the other side of the tree too, you can see as well. I'll just do a quick zoom so you can tell.
5 stories, 5 encounters. From frozen trail cams to mysterious audio buried in the static, each one leaves behind a chilling truth. Something is out there. It walks on 2 legs. It avoids our cameras. It understands when it's being watched. And in every case, just when we get close, it vanishes. Maybe it's just a trick of the light, a shadow in the trees. But if that's true, why does the evidence keep mounting? Why do so many witnesses all across the continent describe the same thing?